When love goes wrong, it can go a few ways. The first one is to have a simple breakup, and each party just moves on. The second way, things might get messy or petty. And there's the potential for a long, drawn-out battle. The third option is when you mix in a love triangle with someone who has violent tendencies. Now, there are no limits to what could happen. We're going to look at 3 victims who simply fell in love with the wrong people. Gary Ruby was a 73-year-old man living out his golden years in Honolulu, Hawaii. Having spent his entire life working hard and saving up, he'd finally bought his forever home, a beachside house costing a whopping $2.2 million. Gary was living the good life. He'd even recently met a new love interest that gave him high hopes for his future, 23-year-old Juan Tejedor Baron. Juan and Gary had been involved in a romantic relationship, and things were going well. That was until Gary revealed that he was HIV positive following a sexual encounter between the two. We're not sure if Gary already knew he had HIV, but either way, it wasn't good news for either of them. Juan told police he became enraged after finding this out and strangled Gary with a belt, quote, until he was unconscious, end quote. Following the murder, Juan placed Gary's body in the bathtub and slashed his wrists with a kitchen knife in an attempt to stage a suicide. He then proceeded to cover the body in cement he found in Gary's garage. He topped it off with coffee grounds to try and mask the smell of decomposition. Not sure how it was supposed to look like a suicide, but that's what happens when you panic after killing someone, I guess. Realizing what he'd done, Juan devised a plan to flee to Mexico with his lover, Scott Hannon. Meanwhile, Gary's brother was growing concerned with his sudden disappearance. Gary's brother placed a call to the local police department, requesting a welfare check at Ruby's residence. When officers arrived, they were met with Juan Baron, who claimed he had bought the home and vehicles from Gary some time ago. When the officers pointed out the discrepancies in property records, Juan changed his story. This inconsistent bit of information proved grounds enough for authorities to search the home, during which they made the gruesome discovery of Gary Ruby's remains. When authorities informed Gary's brother of the incident, he told them about an email he'd received that mentioned a much younger lover named Juan. By then, Juan was long gone. With their prime suspect in the wind, authorities searched for leads wherever they could find them. Juan Baron was finally apprehended in California aboard a bus heading for Mexico. He was found hiding inside a bench seat on the bus. His lover was also arrested, but later got released after it was found he had no part in the killing. 1 week after his arrest, Juan finally confessed to the murder. He was extradited to Hawaii from Los Angeles, where he is currently being held with no bail while he awaits trial. His trial is set for June 20th. Our next case hails from Nevada Township, Illinois. Nicole Abusharif was convicted in 2007 for the murder of her partner, Rebecca Klein. One morning, Rebecca's employer called to see where she was, as Rebecca had not turned up for work. After this call, Nicole then contacted the police and filed a missing persons report. On March 17, 2007, Rebecca's body was found in the trunk of their 1966 Ford Mustang. Her body was bound with duct tape. She had been gagged with a bandana, blindfolded, and ultimately suffocated with a plastic bag over her head. The time of death was placed around 2 days prior to the discovery. Just 4 days later, Nicole was charged with murder. Nicole and Rebecca had been in a relationship for 7 years, from 2000 to 2007. Rebecca was born in Chicago. She graduated from Illinois State University, then went on to work as a caregiver for disabled people. Her role was an important one to her. It was later said during the trial that Rebecca was a flower in God's garden on earth. State's Attorney Joe Ruggiero said, Abusharif was the bottom of the barrel. Nicole killed Rebecca purely out of lust and greed. Not only had Nicole been seeing a bisexual woman named Rose for a year, but she had also taken out a $400,000 life insurance policy on Rebecca. The horrific night that ended beautiful Rebecca's life, Nicole went out on a date with Rose. They went bowling at a local club. At this point, Rose didn't know that Nicole and Rebecca were life partners. She had been told that they were simply roommates. This was one of many lies that Nicole would tell young Rose. Nicole had to keep her young lover interested, so she allegedly told Rose she was an NYC firefighter during the 9/11 attacks. She also said she had been decorated for her service at Ground Zero. Nicole, who was an alcoholic, told another lie. She claimed to have liver cancer and told Rose that her alcoholism would eventually lead to her death. Nicole even took it so far as to visit a funeral home where she made a show of selecting her own casket. The truth was, Nicole worked for a security company. She did have a bit of a nest egg saved up, but this was money collected through several insurance claims. During the initial investigation, police zeroed in on Nicole very quickly. Not only did she show little concern and lack of emotion for missing Rebecca, she actually showed more concern for Rose. The key evidence in this case was solid. The vehicle that Rebecca was found in had 2 keys and Nicole had both of them. There were 25 hand and fingerprints on the plastic bag that was used, which matched Nicole's. In fact, every article used to kill, blind, and gag Rebecca had Nicole's DNA on it. After being indicted on first-degree murder charges, Nicole was held at the DuPage County Jail on $3 million bond, later lowered to $1 million. After bonding out of jail, Nicole was put on home confinement in her Oak Lawn apartment. However, on April 25, 2008, she violated the terms of her bail by leaving the apartment to visit a family member's home next door. Although Assistant State's Attorney Joseph Ruggiero applied to have Nicole's bail revoked, her bail was only increased by $100,000. She returned to county jail, but was back out on bail before her trial began. During her trial, the defense team was able to prove that the murder was not cold, calculated, and premeditated the way the prosecution had painted it, which saved Nicole from a life without parole sentence. Instead, after a lengthy 11-hour deliberation by the jury, she was sentenced to 50 years in prison. The judge also ruled that she would have to serve all of her time before she would be eligible for parole, at age 76. Our third and final case for today is one dubbed the Parachute Murder or the Belgian Love Triangle Skydiving Murder Trial. The killer, Els Clottemans, was an elementary school teacher and an amateur skydiver. The victim, Van Doren, a 38-year-old mother of 2 who was married to a local jeweler, was also a good friend of Clottemans. To top it off, Van Doren was an experienced skydiver who had completed 2,300 jumps before her death. The two were part of a skydiving club together with another mutual friend, Marcel Summers. Now this is the triangle part. Belgian Van Doren, who was married, was having an affair with a Dutch man from the club, Marcel. Apparently, Clottemans was also seeing Marcel. On a night that Marcel was supposed to spend with Clottemans, Van Doren showed up. Instead of turning her away, Marcel took Van Doren upstairs to bed, while Clottemans was told to sleep downstairs on a mattress. Listening to the sounds of their lovemaking upstairs, the rage and jealousy consumed her. The parachutes were just in the hallway. Clottemans got up and simply cut the wires on Van Doren's chute. Needless to say, on the day of a scheduled group jump, Van Doren died after both her parachutes failed to deploy. Van Doren fell from a height of more than 2 miles. Police later determined that her parachutes had been sabotaged as someone had cut the wires. The fatal jump was caught on her helmet cam, depicting slow and horrific video of Van Doren desperately trying to pull her cords. This case enthralled the nation of Belgium. Members of the Parachute Club remembered her as a drama queen, but everyone was genuinely shocked by what had happened. Clottemans and Doren had spoken over 200 times on the phone in the 10 months prior to the death. While Clottemans had initially been viewed by authorities as helpful to the investigation, she quickly became a suspect after she attempted to commit suicide just before giving her second statement to police 1 month after the incident. She maintained her innocence throughout the 100 hours of her interrogation. They wanted me to confess, but confess to what? I couldn't confess as I hadn't done anything, she protested. After the trial began, Els, who maintained her innocence, was placed on suicide watch. Media attention on the case was so extreme that a separate room next to the courthouse was set up for journalists to follow along remotely. October 22, 2010. There was no hard evidence in this case. No confession, no witness, no DNA or fingerprints. Not even a single pair of scissors. Simply motive and opportunity. During the trial, reports by 3 psychologists claimed she was deeply psychopathic, but was still able to maintain a normal life. They also said she was a threat to society. Psychologists alluded to Clottemans' prior history. She had been deeply affected by the death of her father at age 2, which had resulted in multiple suicide attempts. Now she'd been convicted of murder, and Clottemans was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Rather than giving her life in prison, the judge took her feeble psychological condition as an extenuating circumstance. After reading these horrible love stories gone wrong, maybe you'll think twice next time you find yourself caught between 2 love interests. You might find yourself in the middle of a murder trial, either as the victim or the motive. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.